Good morning, comrades. You're listening to WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3 and WHIVFM.org/listen. Today we have Robert.
Hello.
And we also have Scott.
I'm Scott.
Hi.
Skeleton crew today, but we have a couple things to talk about. What's going on, Robert?
I don't know. Like, I was going to ask what's going on with you. I took kind of a mental health day from all this craziness in the world because... I don't know. I just didn't want to deal with it. Did you watch the World Cup at all?
I did watch the World Cup. I saw the U.S. women's team. They kind of couldn't be stopped. They were just kind of on the attack the entire time. And, the Rapinoe was the golden ball winner. She scored a goal. That young girl, Rose Lavelle, she scored a goal, too. She's like 24, and nobody knew who she was before the World Cup. And she had she got the silver ball, I think, or the bronze ball. Which means that she was like the third best player. She got the bronze ball. So that's cool. You know, soccer's good. I saw that you were posting about the U.S.-Mexico tournament. Yeah, the U.S. men's team. I didn't even know that they were doing anything.
Well, I'll talk about that. So I just want to go back to the World Cup. The World Cup is one of the few championships. I don't know few. I'm going to say only that has a runners-up trophy. Mm-hmm. So I find that kind of weird. There's like a runners-up ceremony. Like it's one of the few that's not the Olympics. If you know another one, like let me know. But
they even do a third place game for the bronze or whatever. So I guess that's cool.
I guess so. I mean, it's more exposure time. You know,
if you get to run around and play for a little bit.
Soccer, yeah, it's good. The Gold Cup. Which is CONCACAF. Don't ask me what that stands for. But
it's the North American sanctioning body for FIFA. So it's basically the regional organized crime section of FIFA.
Pretty much. It's like the whole, how it's been explained to me, and I'm a soccer fan, but how it's been explained is like that whole division is set up for the World Cup. I mean, for the U.S. to make the World Cup. Like,
right.
It's set up for just like U.S. and Mexico to go through every 4 years. Or 8. Yeah, World Cup's 8.
No, it's 4.
Whatever. I don't know. I've actually been to a World Cup.
Really? To a match?
I went to the one. Well, no, scratch that. I've been to 2. So I went to the 92 one when I was a kid in Orlando. I saw like Brazil and somebody else. My dad took me. And then I went to, when I was in the Marine Corps in Japan, I went to the quote-unquote South Korean World Cup, which had matches in Japan as well. And they let us go to that. That was really cool. All we had to do was wear our dress blues, and it was free. So we got flown out there.
The price is right.
I know, right? Honestly, I've never played a minute of soccer, organized soccer ever, but that kind of jumpstarted my love for soccer. And it's a good excuse to drink during the day.
Right, and sing and chant. Like, soccer fans act a fool, man. I love it.
It's called tifo.
Tifo?
Yeah, it's like a Italian word for, like, jubilance or something. I'm probably saying this all wrong. Some, like, angry soccer fan's going to email the show.
Where could they email their hate mail at?
Well, it's contact@goodmorningcomrade.com. And if you don't know, this is a socialist, communist, adjacent podcast that rails against all the terrible things that show up in your Facebook feed.
Workers are good. Bosses are bad. Landlords are bad. Banks are bad.
Pretty much.
Boss business is bad.
Oh, Boss Baby is bad. His Boss Baby. Is
Alec Baldwin is bad too.
I hate Alec Baldwin.
There was something I was going to say. What was I thinking about?
I watched The Aviator today.
How was that? How's The Aviator? It's about Howard Hughes, right?
Yeah,
the Spruce Goose and all that.
I've just been watching all the movies on Netflix that are like, here are the award-winning movies. I'm like, what are the worst ones?
Right.
Watch Crash. That one's trash.
Well, it's not on there.
That's so bad. You know what's a good movie is Drive. I really like.
What's that?
Oh, that's the one with the jacket.
Yeah, it's the one that got me involved in vaporwave. Involved. It got me.
I became a vaporwaver at the time.
But that's like my favorite genre of music that everybody hates.
Oh, my friend is in the virtual crew of Vaporwave.
Yeah, I heard that was trash though. What the virtual crew of Vaporwave is? It's like a vaporwave party that we have in New Orleans. I don't think that thing is trash. It's probably because we just have so many festivals. There's just some festivals got to fall through in New Orleans.
I mean, I know
someone's got to.
I've been invited to a bunch, and I've ended up at them incidentally. I had to go pick up my friend who took way too many mushrooms.
Yeah,
I had to drag.
Sounds like a good
I
one.
had to drag him 10 blocks.
there's a good vaporwave show going on at Southport Hall, which I've never been to. It's in Jefferson Parish.
Yeah, it's right across by the end of Britannia and stuff like that.
The expert is here on Jefferson.
Oh, so it's not. Wait a minute. When you say in Britannia,
no. So if you come basically it's right off a river road.
Because that's New Orleans. So it's on the border of New Orleans and Jefferson.
Yeah,
Parish.
it's right there. Like it's in Old Jefferson, but if you drive 2 minutes, you'll be at Coup Brown's.
Oh, okay. So if y'all don't understand New Orleans, what I'm trying to get at is, so New Orleans, we're hip happening, we're a destination city, legit. I'm not even trying to, it's Tokyo, New York, Paris, New Orleans.
I think we just got better records for tourism in Venice or something like that.
Sure. I mean, we are
too much tourism.
We are a worldwide destination city, but then I probably said this I know I've said this on the show before. 2 minutes out, you can see at 20 minutes out, you can be eaten by an alligator. It's
That's
legit,
where I live.
It's a legit swamp.
The place we grew up is 30 minutes away from here, and at the end of our street is a canal with alligators and
water moccasins. Yeah, all the things that'll kill you, and that's where we went fishing. when we were
Once a
kids.
year, there was a big hubbub because some snakes started coming up the street, and one time somebody had to cut it in half with a shovel, and the other time it fought a snake. It fought somebody's chocolate lab.
That's standard. I mean, that's standard New Orleans foolishness. Yeah. But that show, it's supposed to be arcade,
the Vaporwave show.
Arcade, yeah, that Vaporwave show. It's Arcade High's opening. Time Cop 1983 is the headliner, and that means nothing to nobody except one person listening to this in Oregon.
I love all that stuff.
Yeah,
the names are cool.
Yeah. I know. So we went over the 4th. We went tubing on the Bogachita River, which is on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain. And I actually work out there, and I hate going out there for anything. But we went, and there was... I was playing Vaporwave, while we were going down the river, and the people I was with were just do you have anything with lyrics? I'm oh, that bad, huh? Oh, well, it's better than, way down yonder, which was, every other...
Oh, the country stuff. Yeah, the country music that was around when we were kids, basically.
Yeah, and the people who I was out there with were oh, they're looking around because there's all these houses, on the river with, Trump 2020 and, build a wall. Yeah. And they're oh, do you see that? And I'm yeah, I work out here. I deal with these people every day.
Yeah, it's not, and that's one of the weird things, too. If you don't leave the city... You don't realize you're just completely out of touch with suburban areas. If you don't go there, I suppose. Yeah. You don't see what it's like out there. And I've lived in those areas my entire life, and it's just they got this jerk that flies the Confederate flag just right down the street from me. And I'm not defending it or anything like that, right. But I'm just that's there, man. That's just what it is.
It's we stopped at, I don't hate those people or think I'm any better than them or whatnot, but we stopped at a grocery store to pick up some beer, and there was a guy, a very North Shore, very Covington man, in the same Bernie Sanders shirt I had on.
Oh no!
So
he was a ritzed up white guy or something. He looked fancy type, with a fancy haircut.
No. He wasn't one of those LSU grad guys. He was just a guy with a mullet. He looked
nice.
He looked like a swamp man, and he had the same Bernie Sanders shirt. And I was I was F Bernie Sanders, am I right? And he kind of looked at me. And he's oh man, this shirt, bro. And I'm cool. I was so that kind of made me feel some kind of way. It made me feel pretty happy.
No, but Bernie Sanders does appeal to, essentially suburban people because he talks about the things that matter to them, right? And and these things aren't different from people who live in the city. They aren't different from people who live in rural areas. They aren't different than people that live in anywhere. As long as you're working, you basically pay most of your money to either rent or a mortgage, and you feel like you're sort of trapped in the situation, you're always behind. You're never getting ahead. Some people might have more than the others, but you would benefit from free college, and you would benefit from forgiveness of the anywhere from $250 to like I've seen people pay $500,000 for their student loans a month. They're paying out of pocket for premiums, hundreds of dollars, $500 a month, $700 a month for their insurance premiums. They're paying, rent specifically in the cities are going up way, way faster than should be allowed. I think they've doubled in the past 10 years, just because of the forces of gentrification and development that are essentially pricing people out of places where they can rent, and landlords are encouraged to basically just kick people out of their houses so they can either turn them into Airbnbs or rent them for a lot more money. So basically the people, the working people of all these areas don't have that much of a difference amongst them. They're always up against it, and they're always pressed, and they're feeling it, and it can go one of two ways. They can do the thing that you keep seeing, and it's not this simple, obviously, but this is one of the two trajectories that it can go down, is that they go down the scapegoating route and say, oh, it's the the immigrants, or it's the black folks, or it's the whatever you name it, right? Whatever sort of racist thing that's you can pin on identity, that's purely about somebody from the inside that makes them up, which is, by the way, obviously superficial and baloney. But they can either go that way, or they can go the way where, well, actually, we need to look at the people who are in charge of everything. Like I said before, the bosses, the landlords, the bankers, the worst people in the world. And we got to say, actually, what's happening is they're putting this in position, and we need to come after them.
So, and that's like super inspiring to that Bernie Sanders does have a working class message to advocate to people. That's super, super, super inspiring. But then I get super, super depressed. That's kind of why I really have to take a break from this stuff, even like talking or thinking about it. Like at my job, there's multiple people who actively fight against their own class interests with their terrible politics. And it just makes absolutely no sense to me what they're doing. So I'll give you two examples. I know this one woman at my work who she votes Republican for, I think, religious reasons. She's a Catholic, and no abortion, blah, 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 but I don't want contraception. Oh, okay, whatever. She tells me, we're sitting in the office or whatever, and she goes, oh, I got to fill out this paperwork for Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm like, why? And she goes, well, because I needed this procedure and they denied me, so my doctors make me fill out an appeal. And I go, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but like the stuff that we normally talk about, like it sounds like you need to vote for Bernie Sanders. I don't. And she's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, this is actively what he's talking about. Like you are a Bernie Sanders voter. Like we are paying for Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance, and it's not serving you. So what? I don't know what else you need to know that like your politics are not working and they're actively like hurting you. Like they're not hurting anybody else but you. Like you're not owning the libs. You're owning yourself. And so there's her, and then there's another woman at my work. She's younger, and she's talking to me about like, oh, you were in the Marine Corps, right? And I go, yeah. She goes, oh, I'm thinking about going in the Coast Guard to get the Montgomery GI Bill. And I go, no, don't do that. I'm like, that's a bad idea. I was like, the only thing good about it is the Coast Guard is outside of the Department of Defense. I said, but that's not saying you still can't be on a ship somewhere and shoot it out with a drug dealer or something trying to run a load and catch a hot round. Like, that can still happen to you. And she's like, well, I got so much student debt and, like, it'd be really good. And I'm like, okay, check this out. I go, I know you've heard me tell my Marine Corps stories of, like, the Old Spice man traveling the world, but I always preface that with, I was incredibly lucky. I was so lucky. I spun the wheel of misfortune and I hit the little sliver that says jackpot. And like most people, it's not that.
You're going to Japan, maggot.
Yeah, most people, that's not how it works out. And I go, okay, let's take that wheel analogy further. And I go, you have all this college debt, right? I go, I've created a wheel. We can spin the wheel. 2/3 of it says your debt gets paid off in 4 years of work. 1/3, if it lands on 1/3 of this wheel, it's I get to shoot you in the face right now and kill you. Like, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, I would do it because I'm like, I've never looked death in the face before, but I know people who have, and it's not pretty. And I go, you can't tell me you would do that. Like, that's the chances you're taking, is dying a horrible death somewhere, and somewhere you don't need to be, or getting,
for what?
Or getting your school loans paid off, where there's like presidential candidates, Bernie and Warren, who are like, no, let's just it's just Bernie right now, but like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, let's get rid of that. And she's like, well, that would affect, and this is literally what she told me, that would affect illegal immigrants, and I don't want that to happen.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that was her logic. And I'm like, you are out of your gourd.
I mean, I guess the fact that they would have access to college, but that was like multiple steps from. First off, they shouldn't. Like, I don't know how. That's a big leap.
Yeah. She goes. I only want people from my own country to get. I go. Nobody's trying to help you except these people I rant about all the time to you. What do you even? So what do you like? The Republican Party that you're voting for is not helping you. Like, these issues affect you, but yet you are in such a competitive mindset. I mean, to me, I don't even understand how this works. Like,
also, why not? Why would you not want them to get that?
If everybody came through the San Ysidro border, which is Tijuana, and they just came over here, no questions asked, and they handed everyone a honorary doctorate to MIT, but my kids that I don't have and my college debt gets paid off and we have universal health care, I don't care. Like, what kind of even argument is this? And it just it really does my head in.
It's more of a fear-based argument, I find. And I mean, the question that sort of comes up to me is how, if you can, approach and actually engage with this person in a good faith way, which I'm very optimistic in those situations. What would be the best approach for making that happen? And it's really difficult, especially like in those kinds of moments, to come up with what that answer is. Heck, it's even hard to come up with those things after the fact and in reflection. But I think that's the only way that we can ever get to talking to people who do materially sort of act against their own interests, right?
You listen to WHIV 102.3 WHIV LP New Orleans. Go ahead. And one of the key, critical, most important things about that kind of interaction and engagement is that you don't want to do it in a way that makes them like that essentially you have to challenge them, but you don't want to turn them off. So there's got to be some kind of way that you can meet with them for not even like any individual, like it might not even be that. It might be that they expect a certain thing when they're talking to you, but if they heard it from somebody else, it might work a little bit better, or something. There's always ways to communicate with people, and there's definitely some hot like operation touching the sides that turn them off, and it's important to figure out what it is. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I really agree with you, and actually, this is something I'm really bad at because. The people that I even choose to engage in and stuff like this, usually I already have respect for them. Mm-hmm. And so it's more like, in good faith, I'm just like shaking you. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, I would say the same thing to you. Like, if you told me something crazy, I would just be like, what are you talking about? Like, show me what you're talking about. Because I don't have time to like slowly back you into a corner and with this, because that's almost condescending to me. And I know that's not that thinking's wrong, because that's where I think actual minds get changed, is when you just slowly like peel away the people's kind of delusions and goofiness until they don't have any. It's almost like cult deprogramming, where you just you peel away like, nope. Well, what about this? Nope. What about this? Nope. And this is why. And they don't really have anything else left. But to me, it's like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get to like what the heart of the issue is. And that, to be honest, that does not seem to work. Like, I am not the person to talk to to like change somebody's mind. Like when I usually say, not with these people in my life, but let's say it's online and I'm in an argument, like in a Facebook war or something, and it'd be like, well, that's not very productive, blah blah blah. It's not for that person. No. It's for, I'm performing for the audience that's watching.
No, ain't nobody changing their mind.
Right. So I like online or anywhere else, I'm performing for the people who are watching. So instead they can be like, oh, that guy got owned, like blah blah blah, like own effect and lot. Like no, they'd be like, oh. Like,
at least Facebook is the Coliseum. That's where the fights happen. That's where the shows happen, and that's where people start to like look at one another, and that's where all the dunks start to happen.
Yeah, and on like, Twitter, it's the same way.
That's what the internet's for. It's not actually for like, and it actually does have some organizing purposes, but mostly it's for. So the organizing doesn't happen in the timeline; that happens at the DMs, right? Yeah. The show, the timelines is where you're just gonna like nose quarter for your enemies. You just throw them into the pit, and the lions eat them.
No, I agree with it. See, and that's the thing, because I mean, I think you're, to be honest, like you're smarter than I am about this kind of stuff, to where I'm way more emotional about it. And you're way more rational in the conversations you can have with people, and I think it's because, to be honest, like those people that I describe, you've been dealing with them and dancing around them like all your life. To where me, like I grew up in Florida, but I grew up on the coast, and then I went to college in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then I moved to New Orleans. So I've never had to adapt to any of just this goofy thinking. Yeah. And it's just like, I just want to shake you and be like, you're not a dumb person. What is wrong with you? I literally had, okay, so there's a woman I work with, another woman I work with, who I think we've talked about her before. She is a medical professional, but also a anti-vaxxer. Oh, okay. But
you know what? She turn her into a Mary Ann stan.
Yeah, but
that might be the way to go.
She's like a conspiracy head, so it's like that's where we kind of that's where we kind of intersect, because what I do is I try to turn her on to real conspiracies.
I mean, the Weekly World News is a lot of fun, but
yeah, but she'll have like fake conspiracies, and I'll be like, well, did you know about these real things that actually happened? And then she'll be like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, this is actually source, like blah 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 blah. Like this is a crazy thing that actually for real happened.
Yeah, but who sourced it? Who did the science?
Well, man, I had that today with somebody, but I had that today. Well, who did? Well, okay.
Have you ever seen The Curvature of the Earth? Right. Have you?
We never get into it because I wouldn't even engage with her if it was that bad. But she literally told me that we were talking about fascism or whatever, and I think we were talking about that Andy Go kid getting beat up, which or do not promote.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. Not really. Listen to the podcast. It's not complicated. Yeah, but it's complicated.
No,
it's complicated for WHIV 102.3, but it ain't complicated.
Well, I guess so. Actually, to sort of like to just talk about this for a minute, it's complicated in the sense that, like, yeah, obviously no, like, you don't feel bad for the guy or whatever, but there is a tactical approach that you could potentially, like, the guy getting punched in the face is a great career move for him. Yeah, and him whining about it for forever is what he's going to do, and it happens all the time with these people. Remember when KK or whatever went to Juan's Flying Burrito? We talked about it on the show. When he got beat up or whatever, he's posting these whiny ass posts on Facebook about, like, we were at Juan's Flying Burrito, they called Antifa and they threw a milkshake at us.
And you don't know,
that was the guy at Jackson Square. I mean, at the Jackson statue, like, with a machine gun.
AR-15.
Yeah, right. KK is a local Proud Boy who got a milkshake tossed on him.
Maybe we should bleep his name.
Why?
I don't want to give him any exposure. Okay.
Care. Well,
okay. All right, never mind.
But okay, so yeah, and I talked about that in the previous like solo cast. Is that the thing is, so okay, you're Antifa dude, cool, but if you know who Andy Go is, then you shouldn't be jumping on him because you already know who he is and what he's going to do. Like, just do afterwards. Just, like, make better decisions.
So there's one thing that really makes this like a super dicey situation, because the sort of framing is that not the framing that these people do use, the Proud Boys or the whatever, they always use this framing of, oh, we're going out there to demonstrate with do free speech, and that's something that's sort of taken extremely seriously amongst like regular people or whatever. And now it's obviously a complete and utter fraud, and they go out there and literally like provoke fights. Like the Proud Boys, they have these rules. One of them is like these stages or whatever, and different levels of Proud Boyness, and one of them is like you get into a fight or whatever. So there is a point, I suppose, where this becomes like, okay, people in this community are actually legitimately doing self-defense, but like there does need to be a reflection of tactics, but like, I'm not going to go around and tell people what they are and what they should be, because it's not easy. I
mean, I will, because this is kind of still the Wild West, and these things have to be addressed. Again, I'll say again, if you know who that guy is, you know who Andy Go is, you know what he does, and that's why you're coming after him, because you know he's a trash writer for Quillette and like all these other trash publications. What do you think he's going to do when he gets beat up?
I'm not saying that's wrong. I guess what is he doing on the floor first to provoke that kind of reaction is my sort of question.
But like it's beyond what you see on TV. Like you were saying, Robert. When people were here in the city for the statues, they were following people trying to see where they lived and stuff.
Right.
Like
them dudes had guns pointed at me as a cop. So what are we talking about?
Like they invade people's neighborhoods, and they were from like Arkansas or something.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hear all that. And that's the thing. You want to talk about free speech, but I can't yell fire in a crowded theater. So if you can get your gang out here to say you're going to kill me, I'm sorry, peacefully, ethnically cleanse me, and don't expect clapback, which they do expect clapback. That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, they're provoking these kinds of reactions. Then there does need to be, and there are in a lot of organizing circles. I'm not associated with any like specifically anti-fascist organizing groups, but I know there are de-escalatory measures that are in place. I don't know exactly what happened in Portland. I'm not ready to like pass judgment on like the anti-fascist organizer on the ground. Obviously,
no, it's just critiques.
Yeah, totally. But my point here is that like I can see situations, perhaps a lot of situations, where the provocation by the Proud Boys and the response by the anti-fascist organizers on the ground were appropriate. It's just that I don't, it's really hard to analyze these things because of the video taken from these things is very often put out by Proud Boys or these organizers. These organizers of these kinds of events.
That's my thing. That if I could boil down any critique of what Antifa does and other anti-fascist organizing groups, is that before you invest in a balaclava, before you like black block it up, you need to have a contingent who is not dressed, not black blocked, not visually associated with you. You need to be purchasing video cameras and audio equipment, the first thing. And you need to have people to the side who are normies, who are not going to get into this, but support what you do. And they need to be video and audio recording everything. So that way...
And this is on the people that are out there, too, that are at events and they see these sorts of things happening. Well, when anti-fascist organizers are being provoked, then if you're there, you got a phone, take some video.
Yeah, exactly. So that way, when Fox News and Quillette and Breitbart and Daily Stormer and all these other places.
So many like
they'd be like, websites. They'd be like, this guy was just he was just shooting marbles, and then all of a sudden Antifa came and kicked his teeth in, and be like, nah. And that happened. Did you see that that meme that was floating around? It got passed around to me. But there's an old guy, and he was crying about like, I got beat up. Oh my God, look at me, my face.
Somebody down the street with
with a police baton.
Yeah, it's take somebody with a ripstick, like
Right,
somebody.
right. So that's more important, honestly. That kind of documentation of like, no, this guy is not an innocent bystander. This guy is actually trying to hurt and maim people.
And that's excellent work.
Yeah,
that was done to expose this clown. Now, whether or not that got the same play as
No,
the
it didn't.
initial.
It didn't. But that work right there is more important than throwing blows. That it 100% truthfully is.
You're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. You can listen to us also on
Wherever you download podcasts.
Yeah, you can listen to us wherever you download podcasts. WHIVFM.org/listen. So, yeah, it's a really sticky wicket when you come to these. When it comes to these sorts of situations, I'm glad that we actually got to hammer this out. But significant in these things, the two sort of key elements are the PR battle, the who is going to get like dragged in the media, and the media already wants to drag any fascist organization no matter what, and they already want to give breaks to these Proud Boy groups already, and we know that going in. But that's key question number one, and key question two becomes essentially, what can you do? What can these responses to these sort of situations be? It would be cool to talk to somebody about that who's got direct experience with it.
I know a guy.
Well, maybe we should talk to them. They don't even have to use their name. We can have an anonymous interview or whatever.
Bob Sacamano.
I know a guy for real. So yeah, that can go down. No problem.
So we could change gears a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more on the this is something that you'll see on TV sort of situation. Robert hasn't seen this video yet. Buckle up, buddy. You're not going anywhere.
Okay. Am I ready to be upset?
So
Boy.
do you know who Charles Payne is?
Yeah, that's that one kind of clumps looking dude on Fox, who's like every now and then he's like, y'all better do something because
you had a reference that I'm not sure people in the audience will get.
Well, it's the dude. It's the
clumps.
It's the Nutty Professor spinoff thing, right?
The young people know what that is.
So honestly, I've never seen it. I mean,
I saw the first one. But anyway, he's one of these guys on Fox News, on Fox Business, one of the sort of side channels, and he had this guy on. He has a show called Making Money with Charles Payne.
Wow, I want to make money.
And he had this guy who is the Trend Microanalytics chief investment officer on the show, and just
what title is that? What is that?
He basically is the guy who goes and does the investments for the analytics company. I don't know. Anyway,
sounds like Bain Capital. Sounds like a pump and dump operation.
Here we go.
Sure, hit me with it. This is coming straight from the dailies.
Leave the workforce. This, as the number of people working multiple jobs, also spiking. So why are so many people financially unfit to call it quits? Well, it's up for debate. So let's ask Trend Micro CIO Donald Luskin. These kind of polls are always around, right? The bank rate does some things and other folks, but it's always alarming. 32% of people say they
I can't tell any of these guys apart,
which might be unrealistic, but
one of them looks like Skeletor.
Said never.
I mean, they all look like these dudes that they get on Fox. He looks like Charles Krauthammer. Like he looks like every other What is he coming to talk to me about? Stocks, bonds, how the Iranians are working with the Martians to form a Tesla death ray. They all look the same. I'm serious.
They just have a factory of these dead-eyed dudes, libertarian dudes.
I don't think that guy wants to drink my blood, but I think he wants to sell it to somebody.
Yeah, pretty much. He looks like a
Peter Thiel.
He looks like the live-action Mr. Peanut.
Worrisome for you, Donald?
It doesn't worry me personally. I guess I'm one of those people who plans never to retire. I mean, I got to tell you, what do people do when they retire? How do you spend a day? I mean, is bowling that interesting? Is fishing that interesting? I mean,
bruh, I've always had this. I said this right now because you read every time somebody wins the lottery or something, be like, I'll keep working at Cracker Barrel because I wouldn't. Then just give me your money. Give me your money because I can show you what to do. I guarantee you I would never be bored. If there's some kind of like, you can hook something to my brain up, and if boredom ever hits, you get to take all my money. I will take that bet. I will sign that paper. I mean, no, this is crazy. And I love how he says, sitting up here on Fox News in the middle of the day, that he's going to quote unquote work until he retires.
Yeah, this guy's never worked a day in his life.
Work. That's like, I mean, good Lord. If we could take this, like, we're just working stiffs. Like, if we could take this podcast and become our full-time gig, I would never dare. I would say, yeah, this is my full-time gig. I'm blessed and, like, privileged to be able to make money off of it. I would never call it work. Like, this is not... But work is
not the same as like building something. I think this is kind of work because we're actually getting a story and doing something.
But you're talking about I know you're saying like the definition of like actual like labor and like it has value or whatever. I'm talking about the idea of like work, like this.
And the idea of like if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah. You're trying to throw Marx at me on a social podcast. Baby. I don't know why. Terrible.
Marx coming your way. Look out.
Whatever. I mean, if I win the lottery, I'm not gonna quit my job, but I won't be working there much longer. If
a bunch of money I would just do this.
I could probably keep teaching. I suppose it's not an easy job,
right?
But it's something that I can definitely feel a lot more of. I have a lot more flexibility because I'm not so dependent on that income. But this dude over here
I'll just run for president.
He's like looking on getting his 15th Rolls Royce and his 6th different mansion, you know?
I'd be like every other middle-aged man and just have a mental breakdown and run for president.
And he'll be like Howard Schultz. But he's saying like it's great that people will never retire, and they're like it's a blessing because people wouldn't know what to do. Man, people do enjoy doing things that aren't work. Like people do enjoy,
but not to throw it back at you. Not labor that they're alienated from. Like we are not. Like take this as okay. So let's take this podcast as labor. We're not alienated from this. Mm-hmm. Like my 9 to 5, I am alienated from my labor. Yeah. So I would quit it right now.
Right. Exactly.
What I mean, forget it.
Exactly, and that is a key distinction. The fact that the labor that he's just a guy who, like, his job is just to fire people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or to buy this and sell that.
And that goes to a point of, like, labor in general to where, every job I've ever worked, like, I've made no money, I've made a lot of money, I made some money, like, all in between. And I've never for once felt like, oh, this is what I want to do. And it's because I've always been, until I read a little bit of Capital and realized I was alienated from my labor, and that's why I hated, no matter what money you threw at me, not having any kind of connection to my labor is what was making me unhappy, and what makes me unhappy to this day. Mm-hmm. And that's why so many people were like, I think that's what's going on with millennials, is they're saying like, well, why do these millennials like job hunt? Like, why do they job hop? Because to them, they have a connection now. They have an idea of like, none of this is ever going to make me happy. So why should I, if A job is just as bad as B job, why should I put up with any job with A when I can just go? I can go to B. Well, yeah. I can. What do they say about relationships? I can do bad all by myself.
No, and when you talk about the kids, and one of the things that they're told their entire life, okay, you need to work really hard so you can go to college, and then you go to college and you major in something that you don't like, but you can make a lot of money off of. And then you get a job in that field that you don't like and you can make a lot of money off of, but you have a whole bunch of student loans and actually you can't make a whole lot of money off of it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
And so like you talked about that. Screw all this, So anyway, and now this guy is coming and saying you're never going to retire. And that's a good thing. It's a blessing.
Let's go back to this dude, man.
I mean, I happen to love my work. Why would I want to stop it?
Wait. Oh, God. I got to do that thing. He's talking about how much he loves his work, and then there's B-roll of him next to, like, factory workers. It makes me want to vomit all over this soundboard.
This guy's bones would shatter when he walked through the front door of a factory.
Unbelievable.
Those people from the B-roll, can we talk to them?
He couldn't do the most menial job at that place. He couldn't. He wouldn't be fit to like sweep the floor. Like no.
They got guys working on trucks on assembly lines. And this guy's like, these guys should work forever.
Oh my God.
Like it hurts. Why would I stop?
I hate this
This
guy.
is great. What a great country where
Cube
we have
farms.
the opportunity to keep working. What a miracle where our lives are long enough and we're healthy enough and mentally alert enough so that we don't have to retire like generations before us. This is a great blessing. You should embrace it.
We're going to get back to the blessing part of it, but what about people who want
Oh,
to retire but say they just...
open concept offices are the worst.
So gross.
What's his name again?
I don't know.
The guy's name is Donald
Corny
Luskin.
Collins.
Donald Luskin.
aren't earning enough money to retire?
Hold on, I'm looking him up.
Okay, now that is a problem. Now we have to, of course, ask why. Now, were you the profligate grasshopper instead of the ant who saved up? I mean, were you
don't
just,
buy
messing
coffee.
around when you were a kid. You
That's
didn't-
what this is.
You're buying coffee, you're buying
Okay.
avocado
Or
toast.
did,
This is why you don't have nothing.
The economy just failed to provide a
buy
job for
alcohol.
you. It's hard to know. But all I can say is that we're very close to what is statistically full employment right now, which means that anybody who wants a job can have a job. And, I just want to go back to the blessing part of it. It is part of your destiny to be productive and to work. And that means different things for different people. But it is a blessing and you should embrace.
He just said it right there. Like if you just narrow that, like that could go on the DSA website.
Yeah.
Like it's your destiny to be productive, and that means different
Yeah.
things to different people.
And as soon as you stop producing, you have to die.
Yeah, but my idea of being productive, if somebody wants to go for the high score on Mario Kart Rainbow Road, and that's how they find meaning in their life, I don't think Mr. Donald Luskin
I'm
would
looking him
agree.
up. This guy's like a big on Kudlow and Kramer apparently, but he's also really
course.
yeah.
I'm surprised.
Oh, we gotta talk about Jim Cramer
I'm
sometime.
honestly surprised. Yeah, how does? Oh my goodness!
But he's
Does
also
anybody
written-
listen to Jim Cramer about anything?
He's also written 3 books, and I kind of fell asleep because he's only got 3. I fell asleep, and the end was just a kicker. But the first one is like
2 technical books about
2 technical books: Index Options and Futures, The Complete Guide, Portfolio Insurance, A Guide to Dynamic Hedging. And those sound like normal
most
books.
evil things in
But
the
then,
world.
I guess
dynamic hedging.
I guess he finally got in with the publishing company so he could write his masterpiece. I am John Galt. Today's heroic innovators building the world in the villainous parasites.
Wait a
destroying
minute,
it.
dog. Wait a minute. So if his whole claim to fame is investments, and
Yeah.
then he's going to talk about some Ayn Rand garbage, talk about innovation.
He built a
What have
thing
you?
in his life.
What have you innovated, dude? Like
You're a chief investment officer.
this is almost like beating a dead. This is like that Seinfeld episode where Kramer just goes and he's the black belt
From
of the little kids. Because he's like I'm black belt, I'm karate black belt. This is like beating up on little kids talking about this guy.
Yeah.
Like I don't even understand where I understand where he thinks he gets off, but that anybody would even listen to this. I've literally had people I've gotten into arguments like this about my boss, and they go, some people just make bad investments, and I go, oh, what if you make no investments? You dork.
Yeah.
I literally call
I
him a
invested
dork.
in my future by going to college,
What are you
and look at me
talking
now.
about?
I owe $50,000. I owe $100,000 to college
Unbelievable.
forever.
Unbelievable.
That's a bad investment. But everyone my entire life told me to do it. I was told to buy a house in 2005, and so I've been told my entire life that's the smartest possible investment you could ever make. It's the safest because you get equity, you live there. It's the best investment. And then next thing you know, when the housing market crashes, your house ain't worth nothing, and you can't make the payments.
So to this guy, the optimal life, in his way of thinking, is to be born with enough money, with enough access to capital, that you can put that capital in the casino economy of Wall Street and hopefully hit it big.
And he calls that work.
And then calls that work. And then if you're not even born with that capital to start with to even get in the casino, well then you're just foobar. Just work till you die at the donut shop.
The worst investment I ever made was not being born rich.
Unbelievable.
Guys like this, when they look at regular working people, we don't need to let's watch any more of the video.
All right, this is trash. I don't care.
But guys like this, they look at regular working people, and they just see them as labor. They do not see them as human beings. They see them as sort of
human resources.
They can essentially create so much productivity, and when they can't create that productivity anymore, I don't care. I just don't want to have to pay for them. They might as well be dead.
Yeah, they're like, oh, all these Al Bundys are going to go home and be on my sitcom I love.
It's unreal. And I just don't understand. It's like, with all that money and all that free time, you've never read a history book. And I go back to the French Revolution, and it's because I'm actually teaching a class at where I work right now about to the people who live in this group home about the French Revolution, because Bastille Day is coming up. And it just shocks me that like these people think that like that can never happen again. And we've said this before. We're going over the same ground that I am not a proponent of like storming the Bastille. Like I would like to not have that happen. That's why I rant about this stuff. But it's like that you think that you are untouchable.
If this keeps happening, if this keeps going in that trajectory, this Bastille's going to get stormed whether you want it to or not.
They just, and within and the super smart ones have a strategy to where they just want to lock in power so where that can't happen to them, but not guys like this. Guys like this are like laughable to like the super, like the Bezoses and the Elon Musk. These guys are jokes. Like these guys are broke boys, you know? Like, so when it goes down, like there's video, they're coming for you, man. And you don't think that can happen to you, but I'm telling you, the world.
I'm careful with what I'm saying right here, but I hate this guy.
History says otherwise. You're listening to WHIV 102.3 New Orleans, WHIV low power, but yeah, history shows otherwise. That like people are not gonna be playing with you. It hurts. It hurts my head.
We got the receipts
to even understand what these people are talking about. Oh man.
We've seen your Ayn Rand book.
Yeah.
Bring the Revolutionary Tribunal will be like,
who was I talking
bring me the guy who wrote I Am John Galt, today's heroic innovators building the world and the villainous parasites destroying it.
Who was I talking to about Ayn Rand? Oh, it was somebody at work at my job again, because like I actually got him off the Ayn Rand Joe Rogan like libertarian pipeline. I actually derailed that train, and I'm pretty proud about that. But he was talking to me about Ayn Rand, and I was like, you know what's so funny is that my high school English teacher was like, he's like, what are you reading there, Robert? And I'm like, Fountainhead, like you're only good enough, like everybody needs to be like it's only we're all for ourselves, and my contributions are mine alone. And he just goes, you'll get over that. He literally said that, you'll get over that. And I got him off that train because we were talking about, there's a really good comic out there. It's called Action Philosophers. I don't think they're made anymore, but it's one of those like web comics.
I'm sure you can find them.
Yeah, but they do a really good one about Ayn Rand, and it's all sourced. And they do a good one with Karl Marx too. But it was really funny that the Ayn Rand one, they talked about her being like, oh, she's, and I feel sad for her because I understand she's like a supervillain to where I can understand like her origin story, to where like the Soviet Russia, her dad was an architect or whatever, and they took advantage of his work and this and that. So they came over here, and so she was like a supervillain with this mindset. And they said that she got married to some guy, and he worked at the Rand Foundation that she set up with him. And because she was so into logic, like that's her thing. And I understand
logic and reason and ideas.
Yeah, but that's such like but for real, not like dumb. Yeah, but not like dumb stuff. But she was like, yeah, and I understand once you start going down that hole of like trying to take your like human being like emotional content and turn it into just like a computer algorithm and try to just like, that's such a dark hole to go down. That's how terrible tragedies and just terrible injustices get done. And the point is, she had this husband, and he worked at the Rand Foundation, and he wasn't even technically cheating on her. What he did is he got with this like really this younger woman, and they set Anne down and said, look, like, we're gonna get divorced because I have a new love interest. She's just younger and better looking than you.
It's an objectivist decision.
Yeah, it's just
from
logical.
using by your logic.
Yeah.
This is actually a logical decision for me to make.
Exactly.
Because first off, you're Ayn Rand and you're miserable. So
right.
I looked at it on my abacus.
No, that's really the point.
Like, we made a cost-benefit analysis.
And like every good conservative, when something affected her, oh my God, she just went crazy.
Whine.
Yeah, she was just like, you can't work at the foundation anymore. I'm gonna ruin your career. Like da 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 da, and just went on the warpath. And it's just so funny that like people like that who think they're so far out, they think they're so disconnected from like the human circle of things, and then they get something happens to them, then all of a sudden, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's like the politician who's against gay liberation, and then his son's gay. And he's like, we got to do this.
Or he himself is.
Got to do this gay rights. Like blah blah blah.
Well,
it's so frustrating.
That philosophy is the extreme of the I am the protagonist in my life, and everything that's good for me is good, and everything that is bad for me is bad, and everybody else is just an NPC in life. Yep. They're a non-playable character. They're not me, so it don't matter. They can die, they can live. It doesn't really matter as long as they don't get in my way. If they do live, then, if they do help me, then I guess I'll keep them alive for as long as they help me. But as soon as they don't, as soon as they only matter in so much as they matter to me, materially, directly. So
that's the only thought process I can think of.
That's the philosophy. That's what objectivism is.
Yeah.
It's essentially, I am the protagonist here in my own life. All of the things that happen in my life that are good, first off, I get all the credit for it. And anybody who helps me along in the process, well, I still get all the credit for it, and I'll just do what it takes for me to kind of keep them helping me, but I want to give them as little as possible and get the most. I want to milk them for as much of that value as possible. So it is the photo negative of Marxism.
It's so crazy.
It's Ayn Rand and like Heath Ledger joke makeup.
Well, I guess so. To elaborate on that, it's photo negative in the sense that it's the opposite of a class-based system. It's the fact that people can sort of like organize along like mutual interest of like classes of people in sort of like leftist, more Marxist sort of circles and philosophies. That is valued because that is power. Power comes from the collective in those ways, and it should be distributed amongst the collective. Now the Randian sort of view, and my mouth's starting to get taste bad because he's talking about Ayn Rand. But that entire perspective is, well, I've made all the decisions. I'm the pilot here, and everything that essentially, it's so extremely individualist. It's a completely anti-solidaristic worldview, and it's truly psychotic.
Let me ask you this then. Psychotic. So it seems like to me, if I was to shrink this down, working people do not have in this country, especially in this country, do not have class consciousness. But people like that guy we just watched, that Fox News dude, that Don Luskin dude, he definitely has class consciousness.
Yeah, from the ruling class perspective.
He absolutely does. So where does that come from? Like where?
Those people educate their children to be like, we have to hold on to this, and this wealth has to be passed generations.
No, that's 100% true.
Mm-hmm. It's a culture thing too, and based on the sort of place that they maintain in that culture, they have the ability to to essentially propagandize the working class.
It's like dynastic thinking almost.
That's makes a lot of sense actually. That they would. I guess my question is like, how do we, I figured this out. We can quit the show. It's like how do we instill class consciousness in working people? When I talked about 45 minutes ago, these people seem like they actively will just punch themselves in the face.
Basically, my sort of perspective in this, and it's always forever. You basically just say to people like, this is in my interest. This is what I'm doing. So basically, I need because that way you're not like talking down to them, or you're not questioning their decisions. You'll say like, I would benefit from Medicare for all. I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders, and that's the decision that I'm going to make. And
you don't try to make it about them.
People don't listen when you challenge them on their decisions. When you're critical directly of people's decisions, especially like
that seems so counterintuitive.
It's a persuasion technique.
Yeah,
and that's sort of my approach, and it might not be everybody's approach, but essentially,
my way of telling you like, no, like you're actively being dumb, and here's why, and I can actually you to death. Yeah. That I'm telling you right now, that does not work.
Kind of like Inception. Like you have to set people up to figure out themselves.
No, that's 100% true. When I sold stuff, when I was a salesman, that was the thing. You have to make people believe that the choices are their own, even though they really had no free will in this.
Yeah. But again, this is it's not like an exact science, and essentially like that's like only step square one, step one. The other sort of like major key is like when you do, and I'm only talking about 1-to-1 techniques. There are bigger things you could do. There are programs, there are reading groups, there are organizations, there are unions, etc. All kinds of organizing, ways that you can go about things. But this is just basically 1-to-1 organizing, right? Listen to people, like listen to what they have to say and receive it.
And then tell them they're stupid. I said, and then tell them they're stupid. No,
that might not be the best way to get somebody to do what you want them to do. Right. So essentially, I get you. Yeah, basically, and that's just something like, even if
I just don't know how to interface. Okay, so let me go back before we're running out of time on the show. So I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna give you the last word. So this woman that I talked to, the anti-vaxxer woman, blah 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 blah. We talk about things, and she goes, we were talking about fascism, and to finish what that thing was, I said something about fascism, blah 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 blah, and she goes, no. She goes, Marxism leads to fascism. And I go, check this out. I go, I love you. If your car broke down, I will come and pick you up. Like, I really care about you as a person. But I'm going to say this with love. This is just what I said to her. You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You've never read any Marx. You've not read one word of Marx. It's a critique on capitalism, and that is all on an economic system. So when somebody comes at you with something off the wall crazy, in good faith, this isn't like the alt-right playbook where they're just like trying to flood the zone, like just trying to say a million crazy things and having to get you to respond to them. This is really what they've been told and put in their head, and they're parroting back. I could see it in her eyes. She didn't know what she was talking about. You know what I mean? She kind of looked at me and went like, is this the right thing to say? And I was like, no. What do you do then?
I guess one of the first things I would do is ask somebody, why do you think that? And they would probably say something along the lines of, the Soviet Union or something like that. And I guess what you would have to sort of kind of counter with is like, so like what is Marxism? What is it to you? And like basically like dialogue through inquiry. So essentially ask them, because when people are listening, it's very easy to shut down. But when they're talking, they actually have, and especially if you're asking them questions and they're responding to questions, they actually have to think about what it is they're going to say. And so they're in a lot of ways they're put on the spot. Now, obviously, they can just shut down, and that's easy. And you're not going to get through to everybody all the time. But essentially, learning or essentially dialogue through inquiry is the approach that is what I find the most effective. And again, that's it's a long process. It's not ripping off a Band-Aid.
Gotcha. Well, we got to get out of here though. We got like 2 minutes. So again, thank you guys for listening. Good Morning Comrade. Contact at goodmorningcomrade.com. Support the Patreon. Help us keep the server bills down. Thank you for listening to WHIV 102.3. And we will see you either tomorrow or next week or whenever this gets uploaded. And share with your friends. Give us a like, feedback, all that good stuff, and a review. Thanks a lot for listening, you guys. We'll talk to you later.